Hey, I'm Bruce. I call myself the Boomer Consumer. Welcome to my channel. If you've not subscribed yet, please hit that button. That like button for the videos means a lot to me. All right, let's jump into it. Normally, when I post a video, people ask questions, etc. But I'm going to begin this episode a little bit differently. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you tube curious? Have you wondered what a tube-based amplifier would sound like in your system, but you don't want to drop a whole lot of money? I get it. I get it. I too don't want to spend a lot of money to get that tube sound or the experience with tubes. So when Dowk Audio reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like you to review our Nobsound B100 hybrid integrated amplifier, tube-based preamp, Class D power amp. Would you do that for us? I'm thinking, yeah, but it's like $180 and all the tube amps that I've been looking at, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or more. This is $180. It can't possibly be very good. You know what? I'm going to tell you. I'll cut to the chase. Man, was I surprised. So let's talk about it in this video. So let me describe this to you. This is a hybrid integrated amplifier. So you get a tube-based preamp and then Class D power amplifier. They use Toshiba chips for the output. The tubes are the 6P16A. Now, I've kind of looked around. They're very difficult to find these tubes. Dowk says if you need replacement tubes, get in touch with them, and they've got a supply of them. I believe these are like a Chinese-made OEM of like a Soviet design tube. All right. That's the tube situation. It might be hard to find replacement tubes online, but that being said, because they're in the preamp section, they're probably going to last a really, really long time before you have to worry about that. You get Bluetooth 5.0, you get 2 analog inputs, then of course you have the DAC that features optical, coax, and USB inputs. So you have those inputs. So a lot of inputs. As far as outputs, there's a dedicated subwoofer output, 3.5 millimeter output as well for your headphone. And then it comes with an IEC power cord. So it's got a built-in power supply. So no big brick or anything like that to worry about. Everything is hi-fi in a box. Again, $180. How can this possibly be any good for that price tag? Oh, and I mentioned it has a built-in VU meter. The whole thing weighs like 3 pounds. It is a metal chassis, apparently very thin metal, but it only, like I said, it only weighs 3 pounds. And measurements, it's 6.69 inches wide, 6.69 inches deep, and 4.72 tall. This will fit perfectly on your desk. So, okay, $180, we get tubes, we get a built-in DAC, we get Class D power amplification, we get a VU meter, all these inputs and outputs. Okay, this can't sound very good. Well, let me tell you, and you want to give it a little bit of warm-up time. So once I did, this was a sweet sounding integrated amplifier. I really can't believe how good these companies have gotten at making great sounding gear at extremely affordable prices. And, you know, the DAC, let's talk about the built-in DAC for a minute. It's not great, folks. Okay, it's not, but it's serviceable. It'll get you started. And of course, you can always use a different DAC if that's what you want to do with it. My setup, I actually have a WIM Pro. I have that fed into a HIFI Man EF400 R2R DAC, and then output the RCA of that into the B100. This sounds superb. I hate to use this analogy, you know, the dirty window and Windex. And yeah, all I can say is, if you buy this device, if you buy this amplifier, and you want to improve the sound even more, I would go with a different DAC. But if you're just getting started, it's serviceable. You want to hook it up to your TV in a bedroom, that kind of thing, you're going to be fine. Now, as far as speakers that I tried with it, well, you know, I'm kind of thinking, what scenario would somebody find this to be a useful integrated amplifier? small office, like a home office, maybe a bedroom, a den, a smaller room. And so what speakers would be a good pairing in that scenario? I thought, you know what? I've got a pair of Klipsch R41Ms. Let me hook those up to them. And I got to tell you, the sound was nothing short of fantastic coming out of this little it literally blew me away. I was thinking this is going to sound bad. I've heard reports that there might be a little bit of hiss. None of that. Separation, soundstage, imaging, very, very good. Okay, does it have that tubey sound? That's the big question. Full disclosure here, most of my years in hi-fi has been around solid state. But yes, I have heard some very nice tube amplifiers, particularly some from Macintosh. I've heard of Wilsonton. Does this match those? Not entirely, but it's very close. Yes, there is that warmth to a tube system, to a tube sound. There's a warmth to it. Some people say, well, that's that tube sound, that's that analog sound. Well, all I can say is compared to a solid state amp, there is just a little bit more warmth. Some people may say that's just pleasant sounding distortion. But yes, there is a noticeable difference in the sound coming out of a solid state amp and one that has got at least a tube-based preamplifier, okay? And so, yes, you are going to get some of that tube sound with the B100. I really put it through its paces. Metallica, Aerosmith, and then I went through some jazz, did some Anita Baker, some Sade, some Nora Jones, just endless varieties of music. And this thing really does punch above its weight. It's just unbelievable you can get that good a sound out of something so inexpensive. But I didn't just stop using with just the Klipsch R41Ms. I then tried the KEF Q150s with it as well, because I feel these are the kind of size and speakers, the 41Ms, the 150s, that might find themselves most likely in a small room. But, you know, for grins, I hooked it up to my Wharfdale Lintons. And even though those are not really hard to drive, it still sounded great. It still sounded great. You know, I think some audiophiles get hung up on the whole watts thing. It's got to have more and more watts. Not really. You know, tube amps with a sensitive speaker can do a great job and get really, really, really loud. So, soundstage, imaging, very good. Bass, controlled, that which is unexpected, but not, because I think Class C amplifiers really do a superb job with that kind of thing. Treble, bass was all there. Bass is punchy and fast. No, absolutely no complaints. This amp, the B100, I think can hold its own with any, say, $1,000 or sub $1,000 solid state integrated amp, in my opinion. It can definitely hold its own. It certainly sounds every bit as good as my NAD 316 BV2. It sounds better, I think, than my Yamaha AS501, depending on the music, especially jazz. I think jazz is kind of a sweet spot for this thing. Soft rock might also be a sweet spot for this amplifier. So yeah, I think this thing can hold its own against integrateds costing a whole lot more than 180 bucks. So now this is the part of the show where, what do I like? What am I neutral on? What do I dislike? Okay, I've got a list here. I'm going to read it off. If you see me looking down, just referring to my notes. Got to tell you, please keep this in perspective. It's only $180, all right? Here's what I liked. I was impressed by the quality of the sound for this price range, okay? I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed, and I think you would be too. I like the overall size. It's perfect for sitting on a desk or in a small room. It's unobtrusive, but it's also very cool to look at. Now, as far as the lights on the tubes, there's actually LEDs lighting up underneath. That's not actually the tubes that are lit up on there. I like the number of inputs and outputs on here. I think that's fantastic. You're getting a lot of, ability for sources, right? You're getting that. Again, keep in mind that $180 price tag. Plenty of power at 25 watts per channel. Love the physical size of it. And again, that low price of $180. That's what I liked about the B100. Now, I'm sort of neutral on a few things. I think it's kind of light. Wish it was maybe a little bit more, it had a little bit more grunt to it, weight-wise. I'm neutral on the fact that it doesn't come with remote. Some people would say that's a negative. I say I'm neutral. I mostly use it with streaming. So a remote wasn't a big deal. Would be great, in my opinion, if it came in silver instead of just black. And the DAC I'm neutral on. It's a starter DAC. It's probably equal to the DAC in, say, a Weem Mini Streamer, or even the Weem Pro. Not the Plus, but the Weem Pro. I would say that it's pretty much on par with those kind of DACs. What I don't like about the B100, first off, the power switch it's in the back. It's very hard to reach. And you have to figure, once you have all your sources plugged in, your speakers connected, it's down at the bottom, it's in the rear, it's very hard to find. The same thing with the headphone jack on the back. So DAC or Nobsound, if you're listening to this video, please relocate the on and off button and the headphone jack to the front of the unit. It makes it much more user-friendly that way. Another thing, replacement tubes might be a hassle to find. Then there's the knob feel and the button feel. They definitely wiggle around. They're plastic, and you can feel the buttons kind of move around. So treat it with respect. The volume control on the front, that big round volume control, it's okay. It's plastic. You expect that in this price range. I think maybe it could be a little bit improved going forward. The lack of any kind of tone controls. There's no bass or treble controls. There's no balance control. It's just straight amplifier with a volume knob. That's it. And as far as the VU meter, it's pretty. It's fun to look at. It's not very practical. It doesn't even work to really start cranking up some power before that needle will start dancing around. And I listen at low volume, so most of the time that VU meter is doing nothing at all. Finally, to wrap this up, I got to tell you, I was genuinely impressed with the sound quality. Not going to lie, I think it sounds really, really good in that price range. You're going to have to spend, if you're into tubes or you're tube curious, you're going to have to spend a whole lot more money in this to get any, I think, real increase in or better sound out of a tube-based system. This is a great way to dip your toes into that tube world, or looking for a great sounding little integrated amp that you don't have to buy a separate DAC. You can just pretty much use it out of the box. Speaking of which, when you unbox it, the tubes are already pre-mounted. You don't even have to install the tubes if you're kind of scared about handling, they're delicate, their glass could break it. They're already pre-installed. Literally, it's as plug and play as you're going to get. You get a lot of nice features for the money, the DAC, the inputs, the outputs, the subwoofer out. You get all of that, the power of 25 watts per channel, and you're doing that without spending a whole lot of money. And I think this is a perfect integrated amplifier for college students, or again, put it in a spare bedroom, den, home office, hook it up to your television via the optical connection on here, the optical input. Have a little 2-channel home theater, 2.1 with the subwoofer out. You have all that. Did I test it with Bluetooth? I did not. Not a big fan of Bluetooth, so I did not test it with that. What about the headphone? Yeah, I tried it with a couple different HIFI Man headphones. Gotta be honest with you, not that impressed. And I don't think most people's going to use the headphone jack on there anyway, because it is inconveniently located on the back of the unit. Woo! And that is it. That is my review of the Dowk Audio. It is the Nobsound B100 tube-based hybrid integrated amplifier. Bruce Naylor, your Boomer Consumer. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.